fucking love Sienna.
Yeah, does anyone remember what we were doing last session?
Give me a sec. Let me just post this in places.
Supposed to be doing this session.
So your last little arc, if I remember correctly. Oh, hello and welcome to Dark Heresy 2nd Edition, Suicide Tower, etc., etc.
Welcome.
I am your host and Dungeon Master, Deadlight. I am joined by Gray,
Hello.
Rachel, who is going to type, Scott,
I'm here, yeah, what's up?
and Serene.
Heyo! Almost forgot about me, but that's okay.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
So your last arc was investigating the planet with the, I want to say, Relentless Retribution?
Yes.
Yes, which was the...
Drop pods.
Yeah, the escape pods.
pods.
Escape pods, right. Get that wrong every time.
That always were called drop pods.
Yeah, they're always called drop pods. But they're actually escape pods. That was a pre-Heresy Space Marine cruiser, which you later learnt was actually a chip from the Dark Age of technology. And that could do precise warp jumps, which is a very sought-after skill. You went down there, you investigated, you managed to recover some video feeds from the escape pods. They gave you a bunch of lists of planets, which you were like... there was also evidence of Space Marines being on the ship. You then proceeded to run into what you believed was a charter captain originally. Turned out she was a throne agent. Or, not even a throne agent. Yeah, sort of a throne agent. I don't think really... anyway, a member of the Inquisition, who was running an operation in contingent, or more accurately, underneath a Black Shield Space Marine squad. You met the Space Marines. You went onto their ship, where you met the squad. You learnt more about why they were here. They were investigating another ship that was sent after the Relentless Retribution in the Heresy. They were also able to give you a bit more information on the weird bug crystal things which you keep running into. Because you have no luck.
Let's hope not.
We learned bad. More bad than we originally thought.
Yeah, they're really, really horrible.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying let's hope we don't run into them frequently.
Yeah. They agreed that they would wipe out the cult.
Give us any information if they didn't destroy it.
Well, they said they would try not to destroy it, but, you know, fanatics.
On both sides.
I mean, they're trying to kill a cult of fanatics which graft frag grenades to their spine. The likelihood is the grenades are going to go off.
Yeah.
Feels bad for them.
Well, now they're messing with Space Marines. That is a bad thing.
They're not messing, they're being toyed with.
Yeah.
Toyed by Space Marines. Toyed with by?
Yeah, potato, potato.
I don't know the English there. But yeah, I can't really remember what you're going to do next, honestly.
I do.
There was talk of going to
We actually made
a
a plan. We were going to go to... It was the Void Station to do that infiltration place. Especially because one of the things is that I asked them where we could get treasure, and they said if we actually went on that warp planet that we could maybe find treasure. And then we decided, let's go there.
Yeah, Tranquility Station.
Yes, okay, right, cool. That helps me greatly, because I can quickly go look at what Tranquility Station is again. I mean, I remember what it is, it's just I can remember what I wrote before.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So you enter into the system. Well, you're travelling. Does anyone want to do anything while travelling?
But there was that thing of getting combat gauntlets for me, which would need a bit of a bit of adaptation to my class, but that is also something I think we could handle. The roleplay for that as Guild Promise play by post.
Sure. Okay, that's fine.
So if there are roles needed, that would be something to do now, but
it sounds like it is. I can't remember the request, but then again, it's been like ages since we've done this.
The request was more or less custom grip for them to represent them being adapted to Sengu's claws.
Oh, yeah, sure. Then that would be a trade armor at +20 by someone.
I have trade armor +20. I don't know if we have a workshop on this ship.
Not per se, no.
Okay. Do I have any tools
Remember?
that help with this? Let me check to see what tools I have. I don't think a hallucinogen grenade or a lock punch is going to help me here. So.
No.
No, neither will help you refashion these tools. I mean, hallucinate grenade might be fun, but
yeah, that is not exactly what you need just now.
Fun and useful do not coexist.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are fun and useful, just not in this situation.
Bada boom, done.
Yeah. Cool.
Now, was Samuel our tech priest or heretic?
Yes. He is
Perfect.
left.
I can pick up tech use now without feeling bad.
You could have before. I mean, assistant is always a thing.
I already have one tick. I just needed a reason to pick up more.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
This drink is warm.
I can't think of anything I wanted to do on the ship
Okay.
other than cook everybody nice meals.
Okay. Then you arrive to Tranquility Station. Below you, it's very obvious and easy to see, especially with an observatorium, is Fragmentum itself. It appeared at first glance, it seems to be just a almost perfectly smooth purple sphere. However, as you get closer, you can see the storms raging across it. Subtle.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have Romulus isn't here. We'll just hide him.
Yeah.
Deer can be useful for once. No. But as you get closer, you can see storms blowing across the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Tranquility Station itself is massive. Just that random picture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get rid of this image because it's weird. I don't like it anymore. But yeah, no. As you near Tranquility Station, you can see that it had. Oh my gosh, my brain has just turned to jelly.
Way too hot today.
Yeah, it's way too muggy today.
Muggy.
Close.
Okay.
The air feels close, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it when the air feels close to my lungs.
No, not
It's
in
more
that sense.
constrictive.
Constrictive might be a good. No, it's not constrictive, but it's like. It's warm but wet, which this
Hamid.
Hamid words.
Yeah. It's awful either way.
Yeah, it appears to be a long singular spire with consecutive rings making up the majority of the superstructure. And the largest two are actually on the ends. Although it looks a bit weird. There's two massive ones on each end, then they go really small and get wider towards middle.
Okay.
There's also, and closer still, you can see there's an array of spires for docking and such. And you eventually reach near one, and you can send shuttles over to it.
Zetar will get his ship up and ready.
I'll talk to Eric's for a moment, and I'm gonna ask her about what would be a legitimate cover to be really coming here under? What's our angle that we're supposed to be trying to take here? The sizable void ship has pulled up to the station. I'm sure they're going to be trying to talk to us.
Yes, and she goes, the same cover that we normally use. We're part of a rogue trader fleet. This is one of the largest Mechanicus and... Oh, my brain's just turned to jelly again. Oh, what is that organisation called? The Psycho one. Navigator one. Not so... No,
Navigators are Navis Nobility. Psychus is Adaptus Astra Telepathica.
Adaptus Astra Telepathicus. Although there is also a notable presence of the Navis Nobility here, as well as the Adaptus Mechanicus, all of which are studying warp phenomena.
So basically, everyone of importance in the Imperium is here.
Pretty much, yeah. At least related to warp stuff. The subsystem we're in currently, Rathrim, is notorious for void anomalies, with the exception of the void reefs at the entrance of the system. But regardless, a rogue trader fleet coming here is not... A rogue trader ship coming here is not too unusual. Updating maps, especially around this area, is highly desired. And sometimes just trading information on warp anomalies and such. If you wish for a deeper cover, what would you want to suggest? What would you think is plausible, given that background? My drink's warm and I don't like it. I'm still going to drink it, but grumble, grumble, grumble.
Ren will probably kind of look at the route around the ship. He's like, "This on getting things for the ship to make it a little nicer."
Now, when you say nicer, do you mean not as goddamn ugly and actually practical?
In that terms, more useful, more luxurious. Hopefully, both.
This ship is a lost cause.
You're bearing in mind the ship is like plated in gold.
Is it in gold?
Yes.
It's actual gold.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, the ship is like the pinnacle of like... It's really tacky as well, like a lot of the ship is like covered in gold. I like the idea...
Is it like fake spray paint gold, or is it like real gold?
No, real gold.
This ship is the pinnacle of tacky. So.
Yeah, like... Basically, it's the Novus Nobility's fucking like palaces on Terra in space. Super fucking tacky.
Yeah. It is actually made of gold. At least everything that can be. Someone with way too much money and nowhere near enough common sense has built this ship.
That's all I needed to know. Perhaps getting more features that might be helpful and less good-looking, considering what we are trying to accomplish, might be good. Perhaps a better armory would be good as well.
Perhaps a better ship in general would be good. Just, you know, a new one in general.
Shots fired.
Is that an option?
I'd probably talk someone into swapping.
It's not.
I don't think it's an option. I think the rogue trader fleet might get a little pissed if we sold their ship.
Yeah.
Oops. Inquisitorial business.
Okay, very pissed if we said like that.
We'll play the options as they come.
Yeah.
Damn it.
She rolls her eyes. Well, yes, that's fair enough. if you wish to be, I suggest you all get your cover story straight. However,
Also, assuming they let aliens and mutants on this station.
technically, they are sanctioned by the Road Trader House. They might be. It might be wise for them to not advertise themselves too much, per se.
Zetar just kind of like sighs, and Sasha's like, ugh, I'm gonna have to play the servant role again, aren't I?
Yes.
We both do.
Very likely.
Yeah. Sengu will get some sort of big cloak, so he's not too obvious.
Zetar will look at Ren and is like, shut the fuck up. Now that I've said that, sorry, Master.
Ren will kind of chuckle a little bit at this. Perhaps we can find you some disguise kit so that you can at least look human and not have to be subservient all the time.
He's got a tail.
Yes. I have a tail. My snout comes out at least this much further. He'll hold up his hands. Then your face does. And I walk on all fours generally. Walking on two legs isn't that fun for long periods of time. So unless you got a really damn good disguise kit, I must say I'm just gonna be a servant. I don't do surgery.
Well, Yinfel is quite xenophilic for part of the Imperium. That's like saying being hit with the butt end of a baseball bat is the most fun part of being hit with a baseball bat.
Psyche is most likely fine. After all, they have a big psychic presence here.
Yeah, aren't you one of those Astra something or others?
Psyche is fine.
I mean, if the Astropathica, whatever they are called, is one of the main owners of that station, Astropath will certainly be fine.
Astropath, that's what
without even doing Psyniscience, you can tell that the planet gives off a very strong, unnerving feeling. Luckily, it is shielded by the station itself, especially as you got onto the station. And the station itself has a high psychic presence, as in there are a lot of psychics here. So, you suspect you will fit in just fine.
There's way too many opportunities for the warp to be ripped asunder here.
Okay, so we're trying to infiltrate. What exactly are we trying to infiltrate? I'm assuming this is just dossier information that I would know off the top of.
Okay. When I said infiltration, you're not actually you're not trying to infiltrate the station yourself. Someone else is trying to infiltrate the station, and you're trying to work out why and who they are, and potentially stop them.
Yes.
Where we got this lead from?
You got this lead from Wellston's Manor, which my earlier players will know as from the... Basically, it was the Big Bad Boss's home in the end of the first season of this campaign.
It was... the information from Wellston's home was basically what has set off the entire second campaign.
Yes. So yeah...
do we know anyone who might be suspicious, or do we have any contacts on this world?
No.
The obvious starting place that we could start off with on the station itself?
No. But then again, you
okay
have...
then!
Yeah, like... Okay, you cut me off a little because I'm trying to explain a few things.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay.
So your main investigation, your primary investigation, and like what you're meant to be doing when you're going to all these different places with all these different leads, investigating an organization you have dubbed the Unseen Hand. The Unseen Hand is a large organization that seems to be planet-spanning, entire system-spanning, honestly, at this point, from what you've gathered. That seems to be infiltrating the Imperium and doing various things. However, no one is quite sure what they are doing or why they are doing it. On the station, yeah, you don't have any direct leads play, but you're aware that there is an infiltration mission occurring here. Your job is to find it and disable it, and try and learn what information you can about the Unseen Hand from their infiltration mission here.
And I'm guessing we have no specifics in terms of if it's the Adeptus Mechanicus or the Astra Telepathica or anything like that. We just know that there is a thing happening here.
They are actually attempting to. You suspect, or at least the players suspected originally, that they were trying to get in with the Mechanicus here because of the Relentless Retribution lead.
Oh, okay.
Like, all these leads tie in together. These aren't just random leads for random organizations. These are all parts of the leads of the same larger investigation.
Okay. No worries. That's just kind of I was asking these questions because
yeah, no,
I haven't been through the whole thing, so I just wanted to know. Okay.
Any other questions? Like, I'm fully aware there are bits of knowledge which you're probably missing because you haven't been here since the start.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Is there xeno experimentation that happens on this station? By any chance?
Not really.
Are you trying to get rid of me?
No.
Well, it would be a very good cover story while you're walking around with us.
The station is more about recovering stuff from what was the planet called?
Fragmentum.
Fragmentum, yeah.
Right, okay.
Which was, I think, a non-Imperial forge world before
Yes.
it got hit by the warp storms.
Fragmentum, from what you know, at least from the ship's archives you can gather, was a pre-Imperial human forge world. At least this is what information is being recovered. That has a number of archaeotech and just interesting weapons. It's suspected to even have xeno weapons, although it's quite hard to tell what they are at this point. The disadvantage of Fragmentum is that it is constantly bombarded by some of the worst weather imaginable. Warp storms are quite frequent, which is why the station has literal Gala shields active constantly, as well as just incredibly nasty weathers. It's why specialist Qatari teams are sent down there and not just like
Okay.
random.
I got our lie. Don't worry, guys. I got our lie. Zatar is an alien that is resistant to weather and the warp. Bam. That's his reason for being here. We just need information before we send him on planet.
Excuse me. That sounds like the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it came from you, and not the rogue trader.
The seneschal is not currently available, so someone had to do it.
The Seneschal is currently too high to be available.
Yeah.
I want to point out I am in no way more resistant to any weather than you are, except for maybe rain, and that's because I have scales.
That's not important. It's the selling them on the lie about it that's important.
You must talk to some pretty stupid people for that one to work, but okay. Whatever you say, Master. I'm gonna go get my tuxedo. Do I still have that I'll see if I have the tuxedo.
How prevalent of a Xenos race Zatar belongs to? Because if he's like from some random Xenos race, there might be no reason why the Adeptus Mechanicus knows anything about him or his biology.
Semi-prevalent. It's not like it's certainly not. He's not like from a remote world that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That probably won't work out. All right, that ruins
The
that.
Arcula are very mercantile, so they're probably in quite a few stations at this point, selling
Not
various
Imperial.
shit.
Yeah, not really, because they haven't really managed to like. Their freedom is only like recent, so they're not quite like expanding level.
It's more at this point that people are coming to them, to
Okay.
Artoris.
Yeah, they haven't really gotten to the stage where they can expand comfortably. Yes,
You're
they're very
not unknown
mercantile.
enough. You're not unknown enough to make that
Yeah.
claim to be made. So
Mhm.
And before that, his race was a slave race. So,
Mhm.
to Strixus traders?
Yep.
That's correct.
Yeah, I remember my own law.
That was my law. So.
Okay, sorry. I remember great. Oh. Bye, guys.
Mip.
Right. Okay.
we
Enough
lost.
with that stupid joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. No, his race is known.
Yeah. It's not like I'm a Loxodon. Oh wait, they're known as well. Shit.
Yeah, they're there as well.
They are known, but they are, I think, less common in universe.
By the way, completely unrelated, but every time I say Loxodon, I just want to say Young Velotl. Random. Don't question it.
What is that?
Young Velotl is a YouTuber I used to watch. Well, not the YouTuber's name, but they at one point messed up saying the word volatile, and it just spun off from a joke from there.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
really fun to say. Velotl.
Okay.
But you're right, okay.
Deadlight, what is the Moonlighter? So there's one thing on here that's a lead. It says unknown world. This is producing plasma ammo for Moonlighters as other high-tech gear.
Mm-hmm. Moonlighters are a variant of plasma weapon.
And it was the main weapon for Wellsman.
Yes,
Mhm.
they are a more stable sort of plasma weapon by Imperial technology. However, they are nowhere near as potent as normal plasma weapons.
Reasonable for us to possibly figure out this unknown world and what world it is on the station?
Possibly.
Possibly.
If we find whoever's trying to infiltrate, maybe? And not kill them?
I believe in regards to that lead, you suspect that it is from the non-Imperial Forge World.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're here. My question is, because I'm trying to think of the best cover we possibly can before going into this situation, would it be reasonable for us to be asking around the station where this world possibly is, or would that sound like monstrously heretical, for example?
That would sound semi-heretical, because Moonlighters are not... they are very experimental, and you know how the ATMEC reacts to experimental stuff that is
Right, okay.
not their own.
Not a big fan.
Yeah. Also, I want to highlight, this is a non-Imperial Forge World by humans.
Yes.
So the best place...
Mechanicus.
Yeah, you're asking the Mechanicus for a place they would probably just either steal or nuke from orbit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking about it now before, because I had no idea what it was. I was like, this could be a legitimate cover. Oh, this would actually be worse than having no cover at all.
Yeah.
So,
I think the Rogue Trader looking for stuff from Fragmentum is probably still the best
Yeah,
approach.
sounds like it.
yeah, we're looking for safe, fully researched anything that they can give us that's kind of unique and stylish is our best thing.
The best lies are peppered with truth.
Hmm.
And so that, as your cover, makes a lot of sense because it's technically in parts true. You are
Yes.
technically part of a Rogue Trader fleet currently.
And
and you-
I mean, if they have any look at our ship, they will believe that we are part of a Rogue Trader fleet.
Yeah, your ship is more Rogue Tradery than like normal Rogue Trader ships because it's ridiculous.
And we'll be riding in there on a semi-Xeno ship, so, you know...
Which
Sounds
still
pretty
makes
Rogue
sense,
Trader.
but yeah.
Hmm.
So basically, our cover is mostly tell the truth. We're here to look at the Fragmentum because we are going to do that, but we're also doing something else at the same time. So.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
other things at the same time, but like,
Yeah, and we're so bitchin' rich that we can just pay off anybody who questions too much.
no, you're not.
I was gonna say I don't feel like that. I couldn't requisition
Look.
anything over scarce gear.
Look, we put it on the Seneschal's tab. If he comes questioning, expenses.
We'll chip some of the paint off of our ship and give it to you.
Just like one plate, hand it over.
Take a gold plate off the side of the ship.
Just
Here you
steal-
go.
Just steal one of the doors.
Yeah.
Like, look, if you stop questioning us, we'll give you one of the doors. Why would we want a door? It's solid gold. Okay. Stop
Good
questioning. Swing by the ship later, then.
Yeah.
Alright, we have our cover. Let's depart.
I'll put on the best tuxedo I have, but I'm still carrying my hat with me.
That's fine.
Unless
so-
someone takes it, it's on my head.
Anything else before I actually try and do this intro?
Nope.
Here, I think we're good.
How hard do you think it'll be to get a hallucinogen grenade into the air ducts?
I think that that's a stupid question to ask.
That is, first, it's a stupid question to ask. Two, it won't work. It's a mechanical station. They have probably the best air filters they could possibly have.
Right.
Like, describe the air filters at the space station in a second.
I can't, because you haven't been to the space station, so you have no idea what the space station filters are, air filters are like.
Yeah, we'll head there.
All joking aside now.
Mm.
Yes. So you arrive at the station. You dock, and you are greeted by a tech priest. He looks a little confused. He's not very... You wouldn't describe him as very tech priesty in a sense. Like, his robes are... They're red, but they're well-fitting and trimmed. They're more like a suit than, you know, big, heavy red robes. His mechadendrites are gilded and slim. He has two, which he keeps kind of hovering behind him, sort of out of the way. And his cybernetics are also gilded and well-fitting, as opposed to a lot which just seem to be sort of the most practical. He nods and smiles and goes, "Greetings. I wasn't expecting another rogue trader ship here."
Another?
We have rogue traders all the time.
Okay.
You weren't a regular shipment per se, or one of our more usual customers. Please.
We are here off of a little bit of a whim to investigate and perhaps acquire some of the technology off of Fragmentum.
Who isn't? Come. Let us go to a more pleasant environment than the airlocks.
I appreciate your hospitality, and I will start to follow him.
He leads you away from the docking bay, over to a just like a pleasant sort of, it's not a meeting room, it's more of a sitting room. Sitting room, my word. It's not quite. Yeah, it's not quite an office, but it's not quite like a sitting room. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me the right word I'm looking for.
Waiting room?
Yeah, it's a bit. No, it's you definitely do business. Yeah, lounge. Lounge is probably better.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're escorted to a lounge. He sits down. He gestures for you all to sit. A servitor with amasec comes out. The servitor is also well gilded, and like effort has been made to make the flesh not look like it's rotting.
Okay.
So like it's, you know, the flesh actually has a slightly healthy colour to it. It's still quite veiny and not quite right, but it's not like a normal servitor which looks like it's a zombie stapled together.
Right. Okay.
He comes out, it offers amasec to... He's going to offer amasec to everyone but Rex, because Rex is obviously a Xeno.
Mm-hmm.
And...
I'm also looking like a butler.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the driver, you're designated driver.
Mm-hmm.
I am the driver.
I'll take the amasec and drink it.
Yeah. Then we will
Or sip on it, I guess, while we're talking.
Yeah, it's kind of like a... I don't know what would be, like a rare brandy or something.
Mm.
That feels the sort of amasec that he serves here, some sort of brandy.
Yeah.
He also takes a glass and sips it and goes, so, you're after artifacts from planets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got to say, who isn't?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, what can you offer that someone else couldn't, per se?
I do not know all the resources that we have on our ship. I don't know what bargaining we have here. Well, we do have a couple of services. So, I don't know what we have on our ship that we could possibly offer to bargain.
There's a tab which says all the stuff, the facilities the ship has itself.
Which tab is that?
Ship information, I believe.
Yeah.
Page in here? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Sorry, yeah, hand out. Wow, my brain like.
5 whole astropaths that we can barter away.
No.
Their lives mean less to us than anything. One of them is with us currently. You may have Flavia.
One of the astropaths? I thought she was just a psyker.
She's another astropath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and she
technically
is
the ship
my
has 7 astropaths.
Yeah.
What are the shard
Well-
cannon batteries?
We
No.
have a
Your
Xeno
only
librarian.
weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Those are weapons. Never mind. We're gonna keep those.
Yeah.
Zetar will clear his throat. Master, if I may.
No.
He is trying really hard to keep his kind of southern accent.
I'll gesture
out.
to you. Okay. Yeah, I'll gesture to you like, yeah, continue. Say what you would like.
On the ship, we do have a Xeno librarian of sorts. It has maybe some information you all don't. Something that might interest you.
And unless you have some actual proof that you have it's just not a generalised Xeno archive and something that would actually interest us, I'm going to have to decline on that.
I'm guessing there's nothing specialized about ours, so it's not.
Yeah, no, it's no, there's nothing specialised that you are aware of.
I will say, well, there is, we could also offer you our services as private investigators as well. My crew and I happen to be very good at, finding out information that sometimes others cannot find out themselves.
Yeah, he thinks for a moment and goes, He strokes his chin and he goes, well, we have been having a bit of a internal issue as of recent.
Looking forward, like, interested.
In the last few expeditions, there has been a number of malfunctions. No, tough. You're a butler. Shut up. Yeah, there has been a number of malfunctions. A ship malfunctioning going down to fragmentum is a rather bad thing. Rescue is very, very hard, and it generally results in the loss of the entire ship and all its crew. Now,
I'd like to give Flavia a look, as if, like, you should read his mind right now. I'm guessing he would not understand that. But regardless, I'm also going to kind of, I'm going to say, wait, are you saying the ships themselves have malfunctioned, or the, Skitari that are operating are the malfunctioning, components?
we have reason to believe it is the ships themselves, although... Perhaps it is the Skitari. That would be... But anyway, regardless.
Do you suspect sabotage, then, is what is happening here?
I do. The problem is that these ships are expected by at least 3 separate crews before they depart. And these crews are randomised between the several dozen that we have on hand. As well as, you know, there's countless other checks. And ships may be stopped for even the slightest potential error before departing.
So, what you're saying is, if someone wanted to sabotage them, he would have to do so while they are on the way.
Yes, that is the only way I've thought of it, but I can't think of how they could have done it. Because of this, we've actually had to stop all flights down to the planet until we can make sure that we don't lose any more. the ships themselves are specially modified to be the strongest they can to withstand the harsh conditions on the planets, and the Skitarii are also specially modified and specially trained. Each one is incredibly valuable.
Belong to this, and I'll say, how large is the list of potential suspects that could be messing with this?
He shrugs and goes, well, any number of tech priests on the ship could potentially be a suspect. As for those who have direct access to the ships, well, that's any of the 12, any member of any of the 12 crews. Although the logs are checked, and there has been no, as well as picked feeds and stuff, and there's no obvious signs of this. There has been no direct correlation between any of the ships going down either. No one crew has serviced all of the ships, all 7 ships that have gone down, or anything like that.
By the way,
this is 7 ships out of how many ships that you've deployed in recent? Are we talking like 7 out of 7? Are we talking like 7 out of 20? 7 out of 100?
7 out of 20.
20. Still very high.
Yeah, still far too high. Even the loss of one ship is incredibly costly, especially if the ship is on its return route and not on its landing.
Zetar will lean into Ren and kind of whisper into his ear. Maybe ask if there's any consistent people that's been between any of the ships. Like maybe one name has popped up between 1 or 2 of them. An idea.
Is there any individuals that seem perhaps more nefarious or less credible than the others that we could perhaps start with?
Not that I'm aware. I suppose Crew 3 would be the quote-unquote most shady. They serviced 4 out of the 7 ships.
Crew 3, okay. Okay. Is it possible then we could get names, any other useful information on them, as we will obviously want to look into them, as you have said they are the shadiest?
Well, sure, I can get you that information. I don't have it to hand. Anything else?
Trying to think.
You
It might be a little weird for us if we are just to walk into their quarters or talk to them. Are there any reasons why people like us would perhaps want to communicate with these tech priests? For example, could they be hired off the station, for example?
Well...
If it is our intention to go down to Fragmentum at some point, then we would, I assume we would have to hire a crew off the station.
I would also kind of gesture like, is that like a viable thing? Like, why would we be talking to these, like basically walking around talking to these people?
Yeah, like, he can't answer if you keep talking to him.
Oh, shit.
Like, sorry, Scott, but sometimes you do talk a little bit too much, and it's like, how can the NPC react if you don't give him chance? Like, you're just going over the same ground as Gray was going over, and yourself. Because, yes, it's not unheard of for outsiders to venture to the planets. Payment is taken from what they recover, if they do return, that is. I suppose it wouldn't be out of the question to talk to a crew about the ship itself. The repair crews themselves would know the most about such ships. As a sort of, and you could talk to them as a sort of insurance to make sure the ship meets your standard, or you feel safe. Fragmentum is notoriously deadly.
Perhaps be suspicious at all that since it seems like most of the runs have stopped, if suddenly this one were to come up?
Maybe, but perhaps you'll... I mean, you could talk to them while they're not particularly... I suppose it might be, but at the same time, you might be waiting for the runs to start up again. I mean, the crews haven't stopped servicing ships. It's just simply the runs have stopped.
Sure. Would it be viable if we were to say we were a perhaps particularly wealthy investor who had the coin to make it happen? Would that be something that would be reasonable then for them to think this would be green flagged, I suppose?
I mean, we wouldn't allow you to go down to the planet if we weren't happy with it.
Okay.
So, I think you're looking into this a little bit too much, sir. Like, you're trying to go at this a bit weirdly. I said that it's not unreasonable it's not unheard of for outsiders to wish to go down to the planet. I don't see what more reason you would need. I'm not saying that the flights would be happening within the week. It might not even happen within next year. But there's no reason to not talk to them while you wait.
Master tends to get a bit uncertain when it comes to ships. It's as the pilot of the ship and, well, the chauffeur, as you could just call me. He always asks too many questions about anything related to anything that takes off the ground. He's not the best when it comes to not being on his feet.
Is ultimately the way that we investigate the best and make sure that we don't miss anything. But yes, we will take our leave then and begin our investigation.
Very well. You had an interesting angle, which I hadn't heard of in other investigations. The Skitarii themselves. I'm not sure anyone has actually looked into that.
Nod and smile. He's like, perhaps our next lead if nothing turns up from this initial crew.
Very well. I can assure you all the crews that are involved in any of the sabotage ships have already been investigated, but seeing as you're outsiders, you will want to get your own groundwork sorted. Very well.
Nod and I guess I'll go to shake his hand as if like we kind of have a deal then.
Yeah, he will shake your hand back.
And then I'll just ask him kind of to point me in the general direction of where we need to go on this space station.
He claps, and a servitor comes up. He says some instructions in tech binary, and he says, just follow the servitor, he will guide you. If you have somewhere else you wish to go, and you know of the location, just say and he should bring you. He also knows that you are currently staying in one of the quarters, and those quarters there. The quarters you are assigned to.
Are there station maps or something available for visitors like us? So we know where we could go and where we are not allowed to go?
I will provide station maps in your quarters.
Thank you.
You are a little bit unexpected, so you'll have to forgive me for not having everything ready. As I said, most of the visitors we have are resupply ships or road traders who already have been here before, and so already have such things as maps. So.
They'll kind of nod to that and then start to follow Servitor.
Zetar will turn to him and is like, I don't believe we caught your name.
That's because the GM hasn't said it. Because the GM doesn't have the name found.
He could just be XL23 because they always have weird names or designations or something.
He's indeed XL23.
I heard it.
Pleasure meeting you. Oh.
No, he would actually have like a normal disable name that isn't just ridiculous.
Plot twist, even though he doesn't have a name, the GM did make up the name, he's actually the one responsible. He's the main bad guy.
Blast him!
Give me a second.
Could just say insert name here and figure it out in a bit.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to work out the name now before I forget, because otherwise you'll be like, this guy who we've he is Zan Eben. I didn't just go on Lexiconum and just look at tech-based names and steal one.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Oh, it's fine. It was. Thank you for your help.
He will nod and leave you be. Allow you to follow the servitor.
Follow away we shall.
The servitor leads you to a hangar. Like, it's a bit windy, you go down an elevator. He eventually leads you to a hangar where he stops and says, currently you are not... no, that's not what he says. Further access is denied. You do not have clearance to access the hangar.
Then why did you lead us here?
This is where the crew is. I will retrieve them momentarily.
Oh, right.
Goes in. A few moments later, he brings out a tech priest. He comes out and nods and goes, greetings.
Yes, hello.
Why can I help you? You don't seem to be normal.
Oh yes, we would like to requisition an adventure, so to speak, to Fragmentum as soon as the actual runs have opened back up.
And yes, that is something you would need to speak to Zan Eben or one of the other faces.
Oh yes, we just finished being introduced, and we wanted to learn more about the specifications of some of the crews who would be perhaps servicing the ship. You know, we like to get to know who we're working with, we like to know the specifications, and making sure that our ventures are well documented and understood is what we're here to do.
Yeah, well, very well. He turns and gestures to lead you inside the hangar. I have clearance to allow you in the hangar. Please do not touch anything, otherwise one of the gun servitors may shoot you.
I'll kind of nod with that, and I'll follow him in.
And I will not be held responsible if you are shot because you touched me after I've warned you. I suggest you don't get too close to the shuttle either, but I can at least show you one of the shuttles you might be potentially be flying on. Once you're all inside, you can see like a team of tech priests. They are all quite heavily modified. They, instead of... Effectively, they're a bit more like Doc Ock, honestly. Their bodies seem to be... Like, what's left of their body, like their legs don't seem to be really used for much. A few of them actually modified them to be, like, manipulators, as opposed to just legs. They have extended manipulators, so they can push themselves up, so they don't need scaffolding to get to the ship. And long ones as well, so they can reach on. And they just seem to be doing various maintenances, checking things over, etc., etc. And he goes, yes, well, all the ships have a low-frequency Genner field. This prevents the worst of the effects of the planets occurring. They're also heavily reinforced with numerous protections and paints to prevent damage to the ship as upon entry and exit. As I'm probably sure you've already heard, the ships are serviced by at least 3 separate crews. Most of them are serviced by multiples, depending on their station tier. They are serviced mere... yeah, their last service is always moments before... they are always serviced as they arrive, sometime during waiting, and when they're about to depart. Their last service is finished then. If a shuttle does not meet specifications during that third inspection, they are not allowed to depart. Depending on how long the ship is here, or if the ship needs any major maintenance. They may be serviced by additional crews. 3 servitors, as well as 2 humans with augments, pilot these ships and keep track of all the weathers and warp phenomena, keeping in touch with the tower at all times.
The crew. Are you saying the driver is a servitor?
No, the actual pilot is a human. It's augmented. They are able to walk around and do stuff. The co-pilot is a servitor. There is also a human quote-unquote navigator, as well as 2 additional servitor navigators. This allows them to process all the information that is required, as well keep the ship in the air.
Dangerous atmospheres and warp storms certainly make sense to have a lot of crew for navigation.
He nods, yes. The servitors add a sort of level of redundancy, as well as allowing mass data processing.
A nod along to this. Can I be looking around for anything that might be suspicious? Or that would pop out to me?
Give me an awareness.
I will use my Auspex 2.
I feel like that's something.
You whip out your Auspex. Pushes it to his face. He looks a bit confused. You see nothing suspicious. There is nothing suspicious about this.
There's nothing suspicious. Damn. If only
Honestly,
I rolled a 1.
The only thing that's suspicious is you're like whipping out an Auspex. It's like, why are you scanning me? Please stop.
He's like, as you know, it is a pretty large investment to make sure. The master of the rogue trader ship insists it is kind of standard protocol. Makes you uncomfortable.
He's gonna roll scrutiny because he doesn't trust that. Yeah, no, he doesn't pass.
Yeah. The master is very... He doesn't like aircrafts or anything that isn't the big ship. So he's always
More lies!
very finicky.
Don't add more lies to it!
I mean, so far you've asked way too many questions about ships. I'm just rolling with it. Gone way too into
You
detail
seem
about...
very about those ships, yes.
I'm just
Well,
rolling.
there's nothing to be worried about. At least from the ship's side. As I said, they're checked over by multiple crews. Even the smallest inkling of something wrong, such as a scratch on the paint or a fitting being slightly too out of place, is noted down and fixed immediately. The highest level of attention is brought to these ships.
Well, that's good to hear, but you have to forgive me for being a little skeptical, considering that so many of the ships have gone down, and we just want to know... We kind of are curious as to why that is. Of course, it is a lot of money to invest into getting this technology. Do you have perhaps any ideas as to why this is happening so frequently?
I have absolutely no idea why this is happening. It may simply be something to do with the planets. Without the actual ship to look at, I can't tell you.
I want to roll a scrutiny on that.
Okay.
Yeah. That sounds a little fishy.
I don't have scrutiny.
I'm gonna reroll that. Oh, really? Okay. I guess I believe him.
Yeah, sure. He doesn't seem to be lying.
I guess.
Okay.
While he might be sounding a bit fishy, it might just be because he doesn't really normally talk to people.
Okay.
Didn't Zen Evans say something about us talking to Crew 3, Master?
Assuming that this is the crew.
This is Crew 3.
This is? Alright. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure.
Yeah.
As
Would my scrutiny rolls turn up anything else? That?
You think you're pretty sure he's actually like telling the truth? Like, without a ship to examine, he has no way of actually knowing what's gone wrong.
Okay, so that particular tech priest actually has no clue what's going on.
He has no clue.
Okay.
Like, if I actually had the ships, if we were able to travel in the shuttles, perhaps then we might be able to do something. The only thing I can think of, maybe it's something to do with the servitors, the servitor crew. I don't really deal with them per se. They're not. The servitor crew are not part of what the repair teams deal with. We deal with all the mechanical parts. The servitors, the pilots, the Skitari, they're all handled by different crews themselves.
Could you tell us who those people are, perhaps?
He looks at you a bit funny. Why does that interest you?
Again, same reason why we want to see the ship. We want to know all the parts. We want this mission to succeed as much as you would.
He squints a bit at you. Or at least gives the impression that he's squinting at you.
The impression he's squinting.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a tech priest, right?
Yeah, he's a tech priest.
Then he has probably a sort of visor-like display that's displaying the emoticon. So he's probably displaying displaying this.
The hilarious thing is about that, I was thinking about asking for that for Gwyn in another campaign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he gives you, you get the impression that he's just squinting at you, and goes, very well, I don't know what deal you've arranged with, what's his face?
Zan Eben?
Yeah, that person. That tech priest, I don't deal with them very often, their faces, yeah. However, I could point you in the direction of one of them, at least. I know the crews are all stationed in Tower 17.
Alright, was that Tower 17?
17, yes.
City 17. You have been welcomed. I'm gonna stop right there. Too much Half-Life 2.
Yep.
You'll note there's never a 3 in that game.
Never. Are we authorized to go there? I know there are some places that we aren't allowed, and we don't quite know the extent of that quite yet. We haven't gotten the map. Haven't made it to our room yet.
You may be allowed on some of the lower levels, perhaps. You certainly wouldn't be able to go into most of the spot. A lot of the tower. A lot of it is for training simulations, as well as their private quarters, stuff like that. Visitors are requested to stay to the lower levels, which are more of a they're not up to your standard of like hospitality, but they are there to serve their more human needs of the crew.
Of course. Just trying to make sure we don't overstep our boundaries.
He nods.
Z-Char just kind of like fixes his hat as it's kind of like tilted forward, which it naturally does, so he's trying to like get it back into like the fancy looking angle.
Was there any other questions?
No, I believe that will be all. Is this quarters for the crew and the servitors, or are the servitors also held somewhere else?
These servitors are held somewhere else.
I would believe so.
So tell us, yeah. Can you tell us then where they are located as well?
Servitor maintenance?
It might be best to stop bothering the poor man about stuff. We have somewhere else to go, Master. He is not the type of person to normally deal with people like us.
Your butler is correct.
It's like, understand. We will take our leave then.
Zan Eben would have a better understanding of such places and such. My job is to oversee the maintenance of these ships, not to memorize these map of the station for outsiders.
Do I know based on Tower 17? Actually, I don't know where it is in relative to this. I'm guessing it's just basically we tell the servitor and it's just going to lead us there, right?
Yeah, it's just lead you there.
Yeah.
Deadlight.
Me.
Did Zan Eben say the crew that pilot ships are randomized as well?
You didn't ask, so you didn't say.
Okay. In that case, my next question is still kind of valid.
When you say crew, do you mean the service crews or the pilot crews?
The pilot
Pilot.
crews.
No, he didn't say anything about that. The service crews
Okay.
are randomized, though.
Zetar will look at the tech priest. If at any point later we're gonna try to get out of your hair, would it be okay if we came and talked to the piloting crew, not the maintenance? Is that at all possible?
Are you asking this to the crew,
The
crew-
mechanicus guy,
the one you're currently talking to,
yes,
not Zan Eben?
not Zan Eben.
He's like, I don't know. Do I look like a face?
No, I was just wondering if you know, since
Exactly.
you spend all your time around the ships.
Yes,
Sorry.
the ships, not the crews.
We apologize. You must understand that we like to ask the questions when we have the opportunities to, for mostly efficiency's sake. You, as a member of the Adeptus Mechanicus, surely can appreciate efficiency and not having to go to multiple places to find information if that is avoidable.
Then I suggest you talk to Zan Eben, gather all the information from him before proceeding to whatever next destinations you are acquiring. He would have all the relevant information on these such topics, more so than me.
We'll nod and bow and then just leave then.
Cool. Anyone else have any questions?
Nope.
Zetar just follows along.
Sorry, I yawned.
Oh, don't feel bad. I'm kind of tired myself, but it's not tired enough for me to fall asleep. Oddly enough. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been constantly fatigued and tired. It's just today's like, no, fuck it.
Oh man, certainly yawning my head off.
You're yawning
See-
for me since I can't yawn
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, you said yawning and now I'm just getting ballistic. So yeah. Who or where do you go to next?
You guys want to go to Zan Eben again, or do you want to just go straight to the piloting crew?
Since we don't really have a means of assessing the piloting crew, might be better to go to Xanabin first.
You can go to the lower levels, but yeah, you might be right on that. Especially, it sounds like Zan Eben's the one who sets everything up, so it would make sense to probably go through him again.
Or at least make an appointment with him.
Yep, no.
Yeah.
You tell the servitor, he kind of goes beep beep. Very well. And then he starts trending off.
Follow him. Don't let him get away.
He's not very fast.
Don't blink. We'll miss him.
You blink, and he's still
You're still
running.
there.
Pulling ahead.
You blink, and he's turned around. He's holding a knife at you. He's actually weeping angel.
Not even I could move faster than him. Look at him. He's just now putting his foot down from the step before we started talking about how fast he is. See? I couldn't even do that.
He's not that slow. Also, he
I like-
also he has tracks.
See? He's finally met the full rotation.
Well,
Anyways, enough OOC joking around. Onwards.
So you try to, so yeah, you go back. You go to a different sort of lounge this time. Zan Eben is there as greetings. I didn't expect the blah. How did your talk with the Service Crew 3 go?
Yeah, it'll kind of give that kind of like kind of look. there was nothing that we could glean of great importance from them right away. However, we did kind of realize that we perhaps need to inspect the servitors and the themselves, as it seems that they are more likely to be suspect in the reason that the crashes have happened.
Not very well. I can give you their locations. The pilot crew are in Tower 17. The servitors are in Ring 16.
Zetar will note this all down.
You mentioned you wish to talk to the Qatari at what point?
Mm-hmm.
Might be acceptable, yes.
They are in Ring 19.
Also, the pilot crew of Crew 3.
What?
The piloting crew of 3.
It occurred that while the servicing crews are highly monitored, the piloting crews might be less so, and less randomized.
That is correct. They are not randomized. The piloting crews are the same on each mission.
Have there any been... you said that rescue missions had been sent to some of the shuttles. Those that had...
Initially, yes.
Are there any survivors from those rescue missions?
Not that I'm aware of. Crashing down on Fragmentum is not a... It's not a very survivable thing. The planet is very harsh. And by the time a rescue crew can be dispatched, it's often too late. It can take hours.
Been salvaged? Has anything been salvaged, like servitors, or even equipment, or black boxes from any of these shuttles?
Methinks, and goes, funny enough, no, actually, now you mention it. It seems all this crashed down in rather remote areas, which are very hard to get to. We did scan for survivors and such, but we've had no luck. Now, that being said, there might still be a very slim chance of survivors being down on the planet. We do have panic rooms, per se, on planets. They can't weather one of the nastier storms, but they can certainly weather one of the lighter storms, and if a survivor was able to move from light storm to light storm, panic room to panic room, dodging the major storms, they could potentially survive for a period of time. I believe the longest was 3 months. A Skitarii who had managed to get separated from his crew survived 3 months by doing such things. He rigged up he was using a heavily modified warp detector to avoid the storms as best he could. But he did survive for about 3 months, as records recall.
That is quite impressive.
Yes, it is. But as far as I'm aware, no personnel or even equipment has been recovered from any of the crash sites. If we
Where the crash sites are, or did the shuttles just simply go missing?
I know there's at least 3 crash sites. I would have to double check. Or at least 3 confirmed crash sites. I'd have to double check if the others were confirmed, or not just speculated. But the regions where they went down were scanned for survivors and none were detected.
Okay. Okay, well I guess that gives us a couple more options. In fact, that gives us 3 more options to investigate. Guys, you wanna make Suicide Cell really suicidal and go down to Fragmentum and figure this out?
My ship's not that damn good.
No.
We would need one of their ships.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work out. Okay.
And I don't think they want to dirty Xeno's hands on the ship, no matter how good the pilot is and how amazingly spectacular.
Well, you're not trained for this environment.
I do have operate rolling on a 50 as well for aeronautics. So.
You're not trained for
You're
an
not
environment.
trained for warp storms. No matter how good of a pilot you are on insane weather, you are not trained for this.
Hire crews for navigating as well, so probably wouldn't work out.
Yeah, it's a 5-man crew for for going down to the planets, just to pilot the ship.
Look, I'm good, but I ain't that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd need at least like 2 more of me to match their crew. Joking aside, I'm not even that good still.
Okay.
I'm good. Who is any of us actually good at tech use?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a tick in it.
What are you rolling on?
Uh,
If it's actually worth going to investigate the servitors themselves or not.
I'm rolling on a 42 with no tools.
It's not amazing.
Do you have a combi tool?
I do not have a combi tool. I have an Auspex, and that's about it. You could actually use my Auspex and do a tech use on Auspex, which might help us learn stuff, but more likely to get fruits from the piloting crews themselves than.
Yeah, let me give you
servitors.
a quick idea of what I'm good at. You're not gonna see me coming. I might steal your wallet, and I might also fix up your wounds.
Okay.
Other
Zhang,
than that, if it's not a ship, I don't know it.
I was gonna say, yeah, Zhangu, what else are you? What are you actually good at?
I'm a hunter most of the time. I'm good at tracking, I'm good at finding people and things. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so not tech use.
No!
Not often tech use, right?
I'm a feral welder, to remind you.
Oh!
I'm
You could hand him a las gun and he'd be bewildered.
I'm also a very, very crappy shot. At this point I ran my claws. They don't quite go well with triggers and such.
We're not playing get to know each other in front of this guy.
No, that is, yeah. I'm assuming that entire talk was not in front of Sir Evan. That was.
This is more meta. I'm assuming we'd actually know our abilities and whatnot before getting on here. What are you good at, Flavia, other than I guess reading people's minds?
She's a psyker. There you go. There's your answer.
You could be like a psyker intelligence, psyker perception, psyker fellowship. Okay,
She's
so
a
also
face.
social.
She's
Social
just
stuff.
a face without a voice. We
Got
are
it.
her
All
voice.
right. A face without a voice. All right, fair enough. I think then it's pretty obvious that we want to go to the cruise, and hopefully our friend can do a little more research on the actual crash sites, and perhaps Zan Evan can figure out more information around the crash sites and whatnot.
I just want to look at this. I'm just going to link this in a Suicide Cell, but this is a glitch on Order Discordia currently for one of the players. So the only icons that are showing are from 2 of the people, and it's just tiling. To be fair, it's not quite as bad as when I was sat on Order Discordia, not on Discordia, on Vergas server, and it glitched out the other day, and it decided to put one of the random people into the mod cancel. Show it on the map, their name in the mod cancel for some reason. It was like, what the hell? Tyr is taking over the server with a random nobody.
Well, yeah, this Discord is a little glitchy in the last few days.
Oh
Yeah, it seems it likes to be catching on fire a lot. It's
Yeah, there's
Very
something
nice.
going on with their servers.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, this is the most I've seen Discord have hiccups in the past like year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure if I actually if I actually cared and Googled why is Discord on fire for last week, I'd probably get an answer. But I can't
Probably.
be asked.
Yeah, can't be asked.
That is my life quote. Can't be asked.
Yeah. I recommend, while we're talking to Xonibon,
Eben.
I recommend to Ren that he ask if we can in any way get permission to investigate the Skitarii.
He thinks for a moment and goes, well, I suppose if you are going down to the service, you would be assigned a crew as guard. To me, and yeah, no, I shall arrange. It'll take me a bit while, but I can arrange you to meet a Skitarii crew if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of nod. Also, is there any way we can get a little more access, perhaps to some of the quarters of these pilots, to talk to them or anything like that? Or are we going to be limited to the, I guess, the meeting areas, so to speak, of their...
I'm afraid to say you are limited to their meeting area. Accessing their quarters would be very weird.
Yes.
It'll kind of not an understanding.
It would be an obvious sign that they are being investigated, and
Yes.
by outsiders no less, which is not a mechanical thing to do.
Well, this is the thing. Currently in the investigation, I suspect that it's someone of the Mechanicus, or someone that has infiltrated the Mechanicus. However, it's very hard to establish who. As you are outsiders, and never been here, I can quite safely rule you out. On a list of suspects, you are quite low down on there.
We'll kind of I'll smile.
Zitar will look around and like, I'm on a list. And then he'll like shake his arm and like,
you are now, buddy. Welcome to the big leagues.
you know, I have a feeling you would know if I was up to something. All eyes are probably on me.
I meant your party, not you as individual. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. He's like, you're right.
Your ship on fleet has never been to Tranquility Station before, so it is somewhat safe to rule out that you've left an infiltrator here somehow. Somewhat safe.
Yeah, we'll nod. I'm pretty sure it was said earlier, I don't remember, is it that we get assigned a pilot crew, or do we get to pick our pilot crew for the,
You haven't asked.
I will ask him. By the way, how are the pilot crews assigned to these missions? And same with the servitors as well. We know that the servicing crews are randomized, but do we, for example, get to pick our own piloting crew and servitor,
Skitarii, not servitor.
and security? Well, there's the navigating servitors and then the Skitarii as well, so it's all three actually. I'll ask him about all three.
Well, the pilots pick their servitors. Those are not randomized, they pick the servitors, and they often use the same ones if they're still servitors. As for piloting crews, they are generally randomized. Sorry, what was that, Serene? Oh, I'm echoing on you. Serene, that was weird.
The audio jack is a little bit messed up when it comes to computers for some reason.
It was only me, that was weird. But anyway.
No, I had the echoing too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I fixed it quickly.
No, I meant the echoing was only me, or like it was only me talking, not like everyone else. But no, the pilots pick their servitor crews. Generally, servitor crews are the pilot crews are randomized, but I suppose in this instance you could pick your pilot crew. I don't really see that being a major issue. As for Skitarii, again, these things happen so rarely. They might happen once or twice in a faces, in like 30 years. So they're not exactly common, and so unusual exceptions could be raised. Typically, the Skitarii crew, the Skitarii teams that go down, are typically of the same. However, they are somewhat shuffled about as time goes on. Skitarii, unfortunately, do fall in the field, or come to the end of their serviceable lifetime on the planet, it does take a very large toll on them, repeatedly going down there, both physically and mentally. Those that are retired, if they're still serviceable, often become station guard, or are assigned to, or if they desire frontline combat, they are assigned to other Skitarii regiments, or whatever.
The piloting crews generally very stable cells. For example, they are trained and more or less raised together, and they never change around or intermix with each other, or are they more of a communal group?
They are
like
more
any
of a...
couple of pilots could be together, for example.
I see where you're coming from. A bit of A and a bit of B. Pilots and crews are started. Their training is started from a very young age. You're on a rotary ship. You've heard of clan fleets, clan houses on rotary trader houses. It's a similar thing with pilots. Here, they're a clan essentially. There are several small clans actually scattered about the tower, but effectively they are raised from a very young age to be pilots. They will, at that young age, they will be bonded with a co-pilot, or a pilot and navigator typically, and if one or the other was to die, the other would most likely retire, becoming a teacher, teaching the next generation. Again, they are mentally checked quite often, because again, just simply flying down to Fragmentum is a strain. So if they are they're all Ricks and Mortys, yeah, pretty much.
What?
Rick and Morty.
You can't have a pilot without his co-pilot. You can't have a Rick without his Morty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they'll tell you otherwise.
I'll actually ask him. So, one more thing. When is the timeline? When did these crashes start happening? What is the timeline looking like on this? And compared to that of when are these? I'm guessing we're assuming that these crashes are caused by some kind of infiltration into the Adeptus Mechanicus. What is exactly the timeline looking on this?
The first suspected one would have been about approximately 24 weeks ago.
24 weeks ago.
We've had about 4 weeks of no-flies. So the first one would have been the first of the 20, and then over the course of the next 20, we usually send out one shuttle a week. This gives us time to get everything ready, decide which quarantine we're searching, process whatever information. Do we want to send back a team back to the previous one, etc., etc. Generally, we don't send more than one a week. Out of the 20 scheduled ones, the first one would have happened about 24 weeks ago.
He's gonna kind of scratch his chin a little bit. Well, pilots disappear after, and since you said no survivors, the thing I would be interested in is who would perhaps these pilots look up to, interact with on a common basis, or perhaps have the potential to influence them in such a way where they would end up crashing their ships.
He looks a little confused about the last statements, but goes, well, as I said, they are clans. There are 3 major piloting clans, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. And they would look up to and regularly interact with, they would look up to their elders. Pilots that have been down there before, perhaps lost their partner, etc., etc.
Have you checked perhaps if any one of the houses has all the pilots that have crashed, for example?
That is something that was checked, but no, that's not the case. There was 3 from Alpha, 2 from Beta, and 2 from Gamma. So, that's not a reasonable expectation. As for who they interact with on a regular basis, any number of tech priests, they'll regularly interact with Skitarii chieftains, or Skitarii sergeants, should I say. No, Skitarii captains, that's the proper term. Who lead the teams down. The Skitarii captains generally like to know who their pilots are. They also semi-regularly interact with various other tech priests from various departments. Those that scan. Goddamn Dio's regrettable setup. That is just... oh my gosh. Such a regrettable setup. And that is actually like someone that moderates the server.
Yep.
Because we all were going like, huh, why can we all suddenly hear the Discord beeping? Turns out he stuck his microphone in his speaker.
I think he only did that after we asked him.
No, I don't blame. That wouldn't surprise me that he's done that before.
Okay. Basically, that is what a net 100 on TechUse looks like.
So basically, anytime 6 is rolled.
Yeah.
The worst tech priest to ever grace an inquisitorial team.
What was stupid that his target was always like 90, but he just kept failing it.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway. Enough about 6s, the tech priest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything more about him because I know if I do, I am going to be blessed by his luck.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just not talk about 6s anymore.
Yeah. We don't talk about 6s anymore. But no, they could, pilots would often talk to meteorologists who are studying planets' weather, you know, to know the conditions. Geologists, you know, to where the good landing spots are. Cartographers to know the terrain and maps. Because there is a lot of structures down there, so landing zones are quite uncommon. Often going for things like old plazas, old landing pads, the roof of stable buildings, etc., etc. Yeah, no, any number. Research team chiefs who want a particular artifact or item or samples may talk to the pilots to try and encourage them to land in it, to go into an area that is prevalent. Any number of tech priests, effectively. Does that answer your question?
Yes. How much sway do these Skitarii captains have over landing zones?
Not a huge deal. But they do have some. Generally, how these expeditions go is that there will be a quadrant. And a quadrant that we're currently over, and the shuttle will go down. They will try and find a landing zone in the area, and the Skitarii team will do what they deem is necessary for their current trip, or what is appropriate for their current trip. It might be sample searching, it might be artifact collecting, it might be beast hunting, whatever. So,
the Skitarii have very limited sway over everything.
In the air, yes.
Okay.
Well, they may suggest an area that's a bit more prevalent, they may suggest they go to the northern end of a quadrant as opposed to the southern end, but not like huge amounts.
So, if it did come down to just actual crashes, then we could safely say it's not Skitarii. But that doesn't cross them off.
It's I suppose so. Any other questions?
Just one more before we perhaps go and talk to some of the pilots to see if we can get any more information. These crashes, did they start off more as the 20 weeks went on? For example, were there like the 4 weeks at the end of the 20 weeks were 4 crashes, or was it just randomly scattered? Was there any pattern that started occurring?
It was more towards the end, yes. First one was it that started 20 weeks. The second was, I believe, 4 weeks after that. I believe there was 3 in the last 4 weeks.
No.
The 2 after each other really did end it.
Were all those crashes concentrated in one sector, or was it all over the place?
Scattered over 3 sectors. The station does move, so.
Yes, it does, but I could imagine that if there was a sabotage going on, I could imagine that someone wishes to prevent people from going to a certain area.
Potentially. As I said, the station does move. We have over 4 sectors, I believe, from the start. The crashes were all in the same 3 sectors. So, that is a potential option.
How big are these sectors, by the way? Are we talking hundreds of miles?
Yes. Several hundred miles. Otherwise, the possibility of a landing zone is too small to actually make it worthwhile. As I say, the planet was a forge world, and a quite dense one at that. The storms have made it so that there are very few viable landing zones these days.
Yeah. If that information is available, could you probably mark out the targets of those expeditions that crashed?
I can give you a map of those 3 sectors and where those ships crashed.
Yes.
As I say, the targets are, once on the ground, the targets are to the Skitarii's choice.
Mm.
Bribing of Skitarii is not unheard of.
One more question. In general, would you be able to, if no other leads come up, to be able to perhaps set up a fake expedition or greenlight a expedition so that we could perhaps lure out some people who might be trying to crash the ships? As the pattern seems to indicate, they wanted more and more access to these
artifacts,
ships and whatnot. If we were to perhaps pretend like we were going to launch another shuttle, or like the problem had been solved, perhaps it might lure them out or tempt them to try to get on board with it. Is that something that is possible to do?
That is something that is reasonable to you, yes. Please note, though, if I do green light, even if it is only fate one. Okay, Rich. Even if I do, you will have a number of Majuses approach you, trying to request that you go to certain areas and request certain equipment or parts or samples, or whatever. Even though you are visitors, they will still try and make use of you.
Of course.
Do you guys want to take a 5-minute break so I can go get a drink?
Yeah, sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
I think, I guess we can pick up as going to the flight quarters then.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Unless you guys have any more questions.
Not
The only question I have is if there's any way we can reach them via communication, so we don't have to just walk back and forth.
Oh yeah, sure. We can give you a Vox number.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
Out of boom.
Vox frequency. My brain works.
Sounds good. All right. Cool.
Mhm.
Let's take that break then.
Yeah. Right, hello and welcome back. So, yeah, you away to the quarters. Quarters of, I can't remember.
Pilot quarters was
Pilot quarters. Oh, yeah.
started.
Yeah, the lower facilities have, you know, they're kind of like a, just sort of like a mall, if that makes sense. Like an American mall, you know, they've got food courts. The GM has a moose.
I want a moose.
My moose.
Yeah. I will steal it.
No,
You have
it's a
moose.
multi-bar moose. So it's nice.
Steal. Snatch grab.
No. Come back.
Not come back in 1 year. Just come back 1 year. Doesn't matter which one, any of them.
Yeah. One day you will have a moose.
Must go through the moose ritual. Takes a full year of prep.
Yeah.
I'm the moose Nazi. But no, it's like got a food court, there's like a bar, you know, shops, etc, etc. And you can see a number of people walking about. A lot of them wear sort of pilot uniforms, and so you assume they are actually pilots.
Horty.
Personnel who just wear their military uniforms out in public all the time. They're like, we haven't flown for 24 weeks, but you know, I still like to wear my piloting uniform.
Gotta look
Just in
professional
case.
at all times.
Yeah, I mean that's not necessarily true. Like,
But yeah, nah, it's all good.
Look, you're telling me the butler who is still wearing a completely out of fashion hat that does not go with the suit at all. You're judging these guys for looking snazzy in their uniforms?
Position him a new hat.
No. This hat is mine.
that matches his suit.
I
No.
mean you can requisition it. Doesn't mean he's going to wear it.
Yeah. And I think it would be easier for Xita to requisition or fashion a suit that matches his hat.
Yeah, I have trade clothing craft.
You mean seamstress?
I literally just put it down as clothing craft.
I think the
Because I'm
most
uncultured.
Clearly not a
most
wordsmith. He is a clothier.
yeah, it's either tailor or clothier.
Specifics, I make nice clothing. I
Yeah.
have 2 ticks in it. And 2 ticks in armor. And 2 ticks in cook.
You have all this experience. Do you just not get any other skills?
He
To also make you feel good, I have 2 ticks in awareness, 2 ticks in Medicaid, 2 ticks in operate aeronautica, 2 ticks in sleight of hand, and 3 ticks in stealth.
And 4 ticks in I spend my XP better than you.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure where you're getting all this XP from.
Do you have a lot of
regardless.
talents?
Talents? No,
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Oh yeah, or stat upgrades.
I have a few stat upgrades.
No, but talents are a big XP sink.
I have
Massive
plus 10
XP.
agility and plus 5 ballistic skill. Other than that, the only talent I have is expert cook.
Yeah, exactly, which is a tier 1.
Makes
Yeah.
sense then.
No, I'm saying like Scott's probably Ren has probably got more talents,
For the character
which are
build
always.
I'm going, I don't need talents. I'm kind of just going skill monkey.
Well, we're
Yeah.
going. We don't need rows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I find that if you're not a combat character or an engineer, like a dedicated engineer, you don't need talents. There's not many talents that are helpful.
There are some in Universal
Definitely
for
good.
social
Yeah.
stuff.
There are also some for social, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm neither a social nor techie, so there's like
Yeah.
maybe 2 talents I could pick up, and that's related to piloting, which aren't even that
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, there's not. Okay, I get what you're saying. There's not many talents.
I mean, if you could point them in my direction, I'd definitely look at them.
There's that one. I'm currently pointing at it.
Yeah.
I love to imagine that they'd like actually pulled up Yindefeld just for this shtick, hoping it
Yes.
would come up.
It is entirely possible. Anyways,
I'm not going to tell you if
yeah,
I did or not. I'm going to make you wonder.
if you are,
I will admit I did point at my screen.
if you are so
At least
curious,
he wasn't lying.
yeah, if you are so curious on how I've spent my experience so far, go ahead. There's a
Yeah.
screenshot of it.
Let me grab a screenshot of mine.
I mean,
I was just curious because he's like, oh, and I also have this trade that, you know,
yeah,
and I have
no,
this
that's,
trade as well. And I'm like, wait, what? Where'd you, what?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you did get like 8
Oh,
points.
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's
you got
Yeah.
8 ticks to start with, and you sunk them all into 1. If I remember.
sunk them into
I lagged
Tactical
hard
Imperialist.
there.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Enough of this shenanigans.
yeah.
You're in the pilots area. As I said, it's kind of like a shopping mall. Is the easiest way to describe it.
Mhm.
Okay.
With your Science, you can tell that there's lots of psychic presence on the station. This is nothing new.
Mhm.
What type of stores are we looking at in here? So I do recognize kind of the food court. Is there like tech places for like technology and things like that? A place where we could legitimately do like requisitions to try to get things.
Like, it depends what you're trying to get.
I'd like a combi tool now that I'm the dedicated techie.
That actually would probably be a good idea.
Okay, because I don't think we're going to finish this investigation up this session.
No.
Because I'm probably going to get to a point where I'm like, cool, I want to actually go prep some more.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later. So if you have requisitions, you can give me a list between sessions. And then I can go yes or no. Or like, be gone. Stupid.
And we'll assume we'll be doing them here then at this mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't see you finishing this investigation this session, and this is a good place for you to actually do some shopping.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
And before we finish it this session,
But, yeah.
mad
No, you
Yeah,
won't.
that is
No, you.
unlikely.
I'm telling you, Serene, you won't.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how I want to finish this, so that means you can't finish it this session.
Way to stifle our investigation skills. What if I roll a 1 on the next 5 checks?
It just
is-
means that I have to pause the investigation.
Yeah.
Wait, well then, is there any place where it looks like we would talk to, I don't know, important people from the houses, different, just kind of like anything that seems like it would be a good place to start in terms of literally just not flagging down random people walking around in a mall, effectively.
Like, there is a bar.
Alright, we'll go. I'll go to the bar. Let's mosey up to people. Should I guess I want to learn who would be the best people to talk to about getting the right pilots for the job. Would you want me to do like an inquiry check then for that?
Yeah, that's it. That's inquiry check, yeah.
Bonuses or negatives?
No, just give me a strip roll and I'll tell you from there.
Inquiry, and you want to help? Give me a +10 for helping, or am I just gonna roll this flat?
I can tell you the one skill that I don't have is inquiry.
Yeah.
That's bad. I'm gonna re-roll that.
You expect the trash can is the best person to talk to.
I'd like to file a complaint to Mr. Trashcan.
I mean,
Well, if Flavia can help me with, if Flavia has inquiry, then in theory she could give me a +10 and that would pass. Otherwise, I don't know.
could have also
Said she
spent
was a
fate
fa-
point.
She did. I just did to re-roll that.
We can't spend two
Oh,
fate points
it's
on it.
fine because Flavia, if you're just helping me, then I just get my target goes to 60 and I pass.
Maybe she wanted to roll.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have helped her.
Well, her roll was an 81 and a 43.
Yeah. Between the two of you, you work out that talking to the elders is probably the best. There is currently, most houses, most of the little clans have multiple elders. Effectively, they call anyone who has been to the planet at least once and then had to retire an elder, because not all pilots manage to return of sound mind.
Ooh, okay.
I mean,
They are the Ricks.
I mean, this is a planet that is constantly pestered by warp storms.
Yeah.
And, like,
Probably
even
makes
the
sense.
small shuttles that go down there have to have Geller fields to protect them, to a degree.
Mhm.
So, like, there is a big thing on psychiatric treatment and such stuff.
Okay.
But yeah,
Sure, do we know anything about where we could go and talk to these elders? Or which
There's-
elders we even have access to?
well, the elders are like pilots, and they can come down if they wish. You could ask it to meet one of the elders, although you do know that there is an elder from Gamma about currently in the bar.
Okay. We...
They're
Then-
about.
on real quick, and I want to ask him if there's anything that, like, each of these houses from each other, like, would it be, in theory, working to my advantage to be like, oh, I heard that your houses got the best success rate, for example, or, you know, are we looking at, like, their pride, or, you know, kind of things like that.
Sorry, who did you ask, Sam?
Zen Bond over the microbeam?
Yeah, okay. He kind of goes, well, to a degree, yes, there is a bit of competitive rivalry between the three houses. That being said, they probably wouldn't take much away from an outsider complimenting them.
Alright, then I
Because-
guess we'll just approach him, then.
He goes, simply because the mechanic is most likely, like, you know, tech priests try and constantly pester them as well.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I guess we'll approach this elder of Gamma, you said.
Yes, he is about a middle-aged man. Like, he's got a short beard. It's well kept. It's kind of going pepper pot, like stippled with white. It looks like it was, you know, his hair is black, that's starting to go white in places. His beard's black, and it's hard to tell out his exact age. Yeah, he's just sort of sat at a table, and he looks up and goes, "You're not from the station. Can I help you?"
No, we are not from the station, but it is very possible that you can help us. We were looking to the best pilots possible for a run to Fragmentum for certain technology when the go-ahead or the peak has been lifted from the planet, and we were wondering who would be the best pilots, perhaps in your house, that we could use for the job.
He smiles. Yes. Well, I could suggest 3 potential crews. There's crew X-71.
71?
They haven't gone down to the planet per se, but in all the simulations, which are highly accurate, might I add, they have had some of the best marks in a very long time. Like, they are up there in the skilled pilots on at least simulation. Right? There is Z-16.
You said?
Z. Zebra.
Z.
Z, just Z.
Oh, just see, okay.
Not Z. Z-16. They are... they've done 5 successful runs. Quite a marginal record so far. And both their mental and physical health are top-notch. They would be an ideal one if you are looking to keep a much more tested and reliable one. There is also T41.
T41.
T41. Well, they're an older crew and they've only done 3 runs. They are very, very good in the simulation as well as in the field. Nothing flashy, nothing special, but they're certainly reliable. As I say, Z16, they're somewhat of a bit of a hotshot. They're hoping to go for the record of 9.
Okay.
As I say, T41 will probably retire after the next run. After talking to them, 4 is a respectable one. I only achieved 2, unfortunately.
Kind of odd.
Yeah,
well, considering how treacherous Fragmentum is, I'm sure that is still quite an accomplishment.
Yes, well. To earn the title of Elder, you must go back to Fragmentum and return, and so...
Where can we find these crews?
I could summon them down for you if you wish. I believe Z16 will be down later. They tend to be a bit more of the night scene. As hotshots, they kind of like to live it up a bit. 41, they're probably mat shopping if they're down here. Maybe in the general household goods area. They're quite a couple actually. And X71 would probably be in the simulation actually, knowing them.
Training, yes.
So I would have to summon them down.
I would say, what is their take? As you said, 41 is more conservative. Z16 is the hotshots. What is the general temperament of the X71 group?
They're eager to get down, that's for certain. However, they are hardworking. You don't become simulation masters by simply natural luck. I believe more recently.
Give us a moment to.
I would say we will return to you once we have made up our mind.
Yes.
No worries. If you wish to speak to the crews, I can summon them down. I can summon them for you, so you can speak to them in person. I understand outsiders can be a bit fussy with these sorts of things, and exceptions are made for outsiders if they are supplying goods.
Yeah, we'll nod. And then we'll go into our little circle. And which one do you guys want to talk to right now?
The one in simulation is the best choice. The other two, since they're out and about, I could probably just stumble into them and accidentally follow them without being seen.
Well, yes, you're probably right, but the thing I'm worried about is if you are seen, it's just an alien walking around on the ship by himself.
I'm collecting things for my master. I have no idea what you're talking about. He asked me to grab him some certain things, and I grabbed them for him. It just so happened that you were in this area.
Your master might want to send someone who isn't obviously a Xeno.
I got lost in the Walmart. I'm trying to find my mom.
BAM! You have noted that there are while they're not like everywhere, there are Skitarii stationed about, and these Skitarii, well, I wouldn't say they look mean, but oh, hello, is this still work? Oh,
sorry, it cut out there.
Yeah, sorry, there are Skitarii scattered about the station, and while these don't look mean in the sense of like they're aggressive, they are well kitted, like full carapace. All 4 limbs mechanized. A good like few inches above the tallest person of the party. Like, you suspect they are heavily augmented.
I mean, they wouldn't be Skitari otherwise.
This is true. Skitari are not a joke. Oh no, this is the thing. Skitari can range from anything from just highly augmented guardsmen, from like 2 or 3 augments, to servitors.
Yeah, but 2 or 3 augments, combat-focused augments, also already counts as heavily augmented.
Yeah, but I mean... Okay, stop being pedantic, please. When I say heavily augmented, I mean all 4 of their limbs are replaced, and probably, you know, a lot of their senses and stuff.
Also be basically walking,
Tanks.
what is it? Yeah, tanks. I was thinking more of radiation spewing buckets.
They're not that.
Guessing, yeah, that would be a bad idea to do that.
Yeah, considering they have to like...
Lost his half?
Yeah, considering they have to like talk to people who aren't radiation proof, like the pilots.
Not these ones.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So it sounds like we want to talk to X-71, or at least Shang and I are thinking X-71. I'm guessing that the other 2 groups that have probably gone down a multiple times are least likely to turn up any leads. The untested one is more likely. Although I guess we could try to figure out more about the pilots' demographics, other than just their houses, so to speak.
Could, yeah.
I mean, the other 2 crews might have less incentive to sabotage if they are not so worried about being outdone by other crews, but we could still have the opinion on the crash or on the events that led to the crash from those tested crews.
In that case, yeah, let's get X-71 to come, and then we'll ask about those demographics while X-71 starts coming.
Okay, so you go to the Elder, ask him to summon X-71. He says, very well, they might be a little while. They were, as I said, they don't like to finish the simulation halfway through.
And,
so they'll finish their simulation and come down. Even the simulations can be a bit of a strain, so...
Sure. Can we then ask about the demographics of the pilots that have... logging or refreshing your Discord tab?
Yeah, try refreshing Discord. Okay, okay, what do you mean by demographics? Because I actually don't know.
So, the first thing is basically like, were all these pilots like first time? Were any of these like veteran pilots? Rookie pilots, for example, then it might just be that they all just sucked and crashed.
He thinks for a moment as well. I think 2 of the I think 4 of the crews were new crews, but that's not actually unheard of. Most crews tend to be ish. Yeah, 4 of the crews were first-time flights. 2 of the crews were had 1 or 2 flights under them. That one that counts as an elder doesn't count as veteran. And the last crew had 6 flights under their belt. Although they were on their retirement flight.
Oh man, that's so tragic. He was 1 more hour on the job before he retired, and then he got killed.
He drinks, as is the way that is our life. As I say, it's not easy being a pilot. We know your every flight might be your last, even if you come back.
Understandable.
So,
I'm guessing the pilots were also heavily mentally screened before they left.
It's why not all pilots, crews are sent out all the time. They need to be. The flight itself is far more taxing than the simulation, so they need time to recover after that. Plus, they also need mental screening. Even the slightest psychiatric issue needs to be worked out.
Understandable.
The Mechanicus do not take any chances with these. It's certainly unusual. I'm unaware of exactly the exact details of the other houses. There are a number of pilots, and we're always training up new houses, new wings. So that's why there's 3 clans. It splits the workload between 3 groups. So, and we can specialise in it all. Alpha Clan is more specialised in the wastelands, landing in the wastelands and more rocky areas.
Do we know which that coincides with in terms of like sectors of the map?
You haven't been given that yet.
Good.
Beta is much more of the worst conditions of weather. The harsher weather conditions. So the stronger storms, etc., etc. Gamma is more of the we're more of the trying to get into the old space stations and landing bays and stuff. So the tighter
corridor
flight
navigation.
Yes. The surface doesn't always offer opportunities to land, and so a number of times we will go under the surface. Large, Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
If you are going to pick your own crew, it may limit your flight window. It might limit your flight window until there is an opportunity for it. But if you're outsiders, I imagine that it would be a special run anyway.
Yes.
Outside of the normal weekly run.
Right. Yeah, I'll agree with him on that, and I guess we will mostly just wait for this crew to be finished with their flight simulator then.
It takes maybe an hour before they come down.
And Zetar is just sitting there the entire hour, sitting there trying to look like a butler, like, man, I really want to drink and I really want to take this suit off.
You can have a drink if you wish.
It's not very butlerly. I ain't gonna have a drink. I'm just gonna dream about having that drink.
Just get smashed on the ship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be flying home with a drunk pilot, everybody.
No.
If you get drunk, I will pilot the ship.
You can get drunk back on the Golden Promise.
Rin, I have a question. Can you read Xeno? If not,
no.
you're not flying my ship. All the readouts are in Xeno.
I mean, if you get drunk, I will just say you will die.
We all just die.
It's a simple docking. It can't be that difficult. Oh, there it goes. Oops. Sorry, Servitor.
No. As I said, you can get drunk on the Golden Promise, but you might need that anyways.
Zetar really needs to work on putting the ship in Imperial.
Yeah, probably. Along, like everything else he said he would do to his ship. But anyway, so yeah, the
like
group
put guns on it.
They are a man and a woman in the mid-20s, and they look like, actually, yeah, no, they look very, very similar. You would guess they are twins, or at least brother and sister.
Are they also like androgynous as well? Is that where this is going?
Androgynous? What do you mean?
You know, you said they were twins and they looked very similar, so that's why I asked, are they like androgynous looking?
Are their genders hard to place?
Oh, no.
Okay, so I'm not confused as which is a male and which is
Exactly,
a
we're not
female.
Yeah,
Right.
no. The female is quite clearly female, but like their features are quite similar, as is their sort of build. If the male's even, although the male's is a bit more masculine and the female's a bit more feminine. If that makes sense.
Fair enough.
They're not
I
androgynous.
thought we were dealing with the Von Trapp situation again.
No, you're not dealing
No.
with Von Trapp.
Not sure if happy to see you or if Guardman just. What are you?
No, they're not androgynous. I said this like 6 times already. They're not androgynous.
So you are X71 then.
The panel, the male said yes. We're Flight Crew X-71.
And I have is the Elder still in this area, or did he
Yeah,
like
he's still about.
mosey on off? Okay.
No, he's not.
I've been told that you are actually a very adept crew, at least in the simulation, but you are completely in terms of actual experience on Fragmentum.
They nod, and the male says yes. That is true. Although that can be said for there are always a number of crews that haven't actually flown down to Fragmentum. Although yes, we do have some of the higher flight simulation records.
I've actually been told that they're quite high. What are we looking at in terms of your statistically? Where do you place on the bell curve, so to speak, of pilots?
At the top. Well, not at the very top, but near the top. They're constantly using actual flights as models, especially in the and where pilots' skill is based on their, how well they do in the flights, i.e., how much damage is done to the shuttle systems, etc., etc., as well as do they make it back out alive? How long are they able to stay on the planet? Their choice of landing, etc., etc. It's a complicated algorithm.
Right.
But we place very, very high. We've successfully done runs on some of the harder simulations.
From
This is good.
one pilot to another, how are you outranked, per se? Like, you're obviously very high up there. Is it just, like, small margins, just minor calculations, or is it just world record, stationary records that you just haven't scratched quite yet?
It's more of the stationary records. We hold the highest living records of personnel that are living. There is some in the past that have been higher, but yes. We also do. We don't just do simulation. We don't just do gamma simulations. We've also done a number of alpha and beta simulations. Alpha ones are more interesting for the landings, and beta are much more harder in general.
So have you actually never flown an actual ship? Have they all just been simulations?
That is correct, yes. We haven't flown a ship. We haven't had the opportunity to fly a ship.
Well, maybe you'll get to see your first actual ship soon.
Are considering making a venture to Fragmentum when possible, and we are aware that your piloting house is the one that experts in close quarters flying and landing, so to speak.
They both nod, and the male goes, yes, yeah, that is correct. Although, as we said, we've done a lot of training in the other simulations, so that's the only way you can get near those records, is by doing the simulations of the other houses, the other clans.
the question that comes to mind is that there are a couple of other houses that have certainly experience under their belt as well, more or less perhaps proven. I was wondering, why do you think we should perhaps give you a shot on this mission?
Well, we have the highest living record on the simulations. While yes, there might be other crews out there, even them, they don't have the simulation records. Just because they can do it in the field doesn't mean, well, they have done it in the field doesn't mean they can reliably do it in the field. Any flight could be your last. This is something that we're all taught, and if they can't do it in the simulation, how can they do it in the field?
Understood. I know that there is definitely obviously crossover in terms of the mechanics that are required to fly the ships in the simulators and in real life, but how well do these simulators simulate the other stresses of of Fragmentum itself, like the warp storms, the fatigue, perhaps the mental stress that kind of comes with actually flying to the planet? I am curious because I don't know much about your simulations.
They are all based on actual flights. All the information, all the data isn't simulated. They are recorded. The flight records all the information when it's going down there, and then the Mechanicus will compile several of very similar, and use all that information to composite a simulation. These simulations will run for hours. You will, if we're doing one that lasts a few days on the planets, we have to sit in the simulation for a few days. You can't just get up and leave.
Okay.
They're also 360 maneuvering. If the shuttle was to spin out of control, we literally spin out of control.
Feel the actual pressure. Do they do a good job of simulating atmospheric pressure, though? Perhaps descending, ascending, things like that?
I would guess so, yes, if they've done everything else. Adjusting the air pressure in the simulation chamber. I'm not a mechanicus. We haven't flown, so.
At this point, Zetar will just ask them just basic questions of how does it feel at this specific altitude, just kind of drilling them.
Yeah. You ask that, and the woman actually turns around and goes, "Have you actually ever flown on Fragmentum?"
I have not, but if the gravity is about assumed, you could easily figure type of pressure. I've flown many times. I kind of have a feeling for kind of different gravity levels and how they affect the pilot. Of course, Fragmentum is, as far as I understand it, quite warpy, so it could be different, but from what I can figure as a pilot, I just feel I should ask you.
Yeah, the male goes very well and answers the questions. They do seem off to you, but then the elder goes, I have actually had the honor of flying once outside of Fragmentum to a nearby moon, and it is very different to fly in Fragmentum than it is to fly anywhere else. A good pilot on Fragmentum is not a good pilot in reality, in normal reality, as I found out.
I didn't mean any disrespect by it, of course. It's just, as a pilot, it just feels kind of like I should ask these questions.
Yeah,
everything goes well.
Yeah, it's kind of like asking someone how what's it like to drive a motorcycle when for their entire life they've driven a car. It's that sort of comparison. Yeah, there's some similarities, but it's very, very different.
A car on Jupiter. With the warp.
I don't know what I mean.
The warp.
Yeah, no, it is very clear. It becomes very, very clear that it's completely different kettle of fish.
Okay. Zetar finally kind of has the level of just how different it is.
Oh yeah, no, there is no way in hell that you are going to fly this thing.
Zetar kind of just looks at it and was like, now I want to try this simulation.
You will not.
Yeah, he's like, we're probably not going to have that happen. Regardless, I would like to know is your overall philosophy in terms of how you would approach these kind of flights. As we know, there are a couple of other groups that we've considered interviewing, and one of them being Hotshot, being more risk-taking. We've been heard that you are hard-working. However, if you were to encounter a somewhat risky situation, are you the type of team that would be willing to go big, so to speak, or are you the ones who would stay conservative and stay safe and cut the mission short in interest of protecting yourselves and the crew and the servitors and the ship itself?
The female speaks up. The male thinks for a moment, but the female speaks up and goes, well, it does depend on the situation and other factors. Well, we're not, I wouldn't call us hotshots or risk takers. There is certain risks that we might take that other pilots wouldn't. Likewise, there are certain risks that we would say no to, where other pilots might say yes. Yes, like
understandable.
Like flying in Fragmentum is not like flying anywhere else. It's not like, oh, the wind's picked up. You know, the wind could suddenly change to hailstorm. If the wind picks up, it could mean a number of different things. It could mean a warp storm's coming, it could mean a hailstorm, it could mean absolutely nothing. It could be beneficial, it could be harmful. We're not risk takers in that sense, but we know our limits, and our limits, at least in the simulation, are much stronger than others.
Okay.
They're basically very well trained at playing everything by ear.
Yes.
In layman's terms.
Yes. Which is basically how you describe anyone flying on Fragmentum. Which is flying by ear.
Flying with your ears sounds dangerous.
It's the only way on Fragmentum.
I like to imagine they don't actually pilot ships, they just have a bunch of dumbos that they've bred for years.
Whatever. So, do you have any other questions?
I think that is all for now.
Mm-hmm.
Unless either of my associates here have any. Well, I'll kind of change that. My associate and say it a little more poignantly after considering his effective peppering and badgering of the pilots. Unless they have any more questions that they would like to ask, I think we have all the knowledge we need to know.
Z-Type just shrugs.
I tell you, shrug. So yeah.
Check them if they're warp corrupted. Use your mind reading powers.
Rachel, turn into Note Mist, and Note Mist everybody.
No, please don't.
Yeah, that happened before, and it was not planned. Didn't happen to Rachel, but it happened.
Didn't help that our target decided to turn into Nope Mist, and then, like, gets himself killed.
Could I roll a scrutiny check for kind of like all the information that I've been processing? Like, you know, how, if they're hiding anything, or, you know, they actually are a little less comfortable, maybe a little nervous because they actually haven't tried it yet, you know, that kind of stuff?
Sure.
Scrutiny Fellowship. Kidding me. Alright, well, you got it for me.
Sengu doesn't have much clue about simulators or spaceships or so, but he probably has a feeling of how people and other creatures feel about the situation.
Well, yeah, they're emotional ticks and shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely an edge of nervousness. Like, it's very well hidden, and it's very well contained. But there's definitely sort of an edge of nervousness. Which could literally just be down to they've never actually flown, or that they are very good pilots in the simulation.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when they are suggested of going, they do show a sign of excitement and eagerness to actually, you know. But again, this is...
Yeah.
It's only the slightest hint. They are well disciplined in not showing that. If that makes sense.
Flies right over my head.
Yeah. Like, the only reason he's telling it is because he's not talking to them, he's just watching them.
Yeah.
He's not talking to them or processing their information. He's just, like, watching them for signs of...
Yeah.
He's literally just watching them. His face twitched there. He must be nervous. He must be nervous. I can taste his fear.
Yeah, but, like, you can tell these are these are people who are well-disciplined in, like, holding their emotions together.
Yeah, which sort of makes sense if they are flying in possible orb storms.
Yeah, like, even the Elder gave off that air of, like, okay, this is odd, but, like, you know, like, an air of control.
Yeah. So the way I would put it down, they are nervous about going out because they don't... They haven't experienced the actual flight yet and must trust that their simulations are accurate, but they definitely want to go.
He's like, well, understandable. Fragmentum. Every flight could be your last, as they said.
Like, yeah, every pilot you've talked to has literally said that. Also, you've only talked to 2 pilots.
Well, two pilots and the Elder.
Yeah.
Which makes it 3.
Okay, 3.
Been the navigator. He could have been the navigator. You don't know that.
Well, still, it's either a pilot or a navigator, and they're both, like, dedicated crew
Fair
to
enough.
the same ship. Like,
I'm still just sitting here imagining this all as just a bunch of Rick, Mortys, and Summers running around.
oh my gosh, god damn it!
Okay, so guys, I think the next thing we need to think of is, do we want to keep talking to these crews? Because I don't think that we're going to actually get to the bottom of who's the traitor by doing it this way. I feel like maybe we look at the servitors now and see if that's possible.
Yes. Let's do that.
We could certainly keep talking to these crews. I'm just not sure that it's going to work out, though.
Well, from what I heard, another one of the crews might be coming on late tonight, so we just pop by later tonight.
Yeah.
Later. And again, there's also 2 other houses of people. So, in theory, there could be a lot of crews that we could be talking to.
Indeed.
Deadlight, you want to let us basically do, like, the rest of the day of us, like, montaging through talking to a lot of different crews, for example.
Yeah, sure. If you want to go through that, that's totally fine.
I guess the main thing I would want to do is, we're going to obviously scrutinize them for anything that's, like, sketchy or that would pop up randomly.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, you can all give me scrutiny rolls if you want to do that. The first thing you note from all the crews is that they do seem to have that air of control.
Yeah.
So close!
That was pretty close. Alright.
He starts picking up on this human
At
stuff.
least I passed this time. Like, geez, I rolled like over a 70 the last 2 scrutinies. At least I
Yeah. So yeah, no. First, you can tell that a lot of these crews do, have an air of control. Even the more emotional ones seem to have it. They can control it, if that makes sense.
Are any of them talking about chaos gods or the voices in their heads?
No.
Damn.
That is a lot of crews are just like a lot of the recommended crews have like maybe 2 to 3 flights at most. Like unless you're willing to go with the hot shots, the quote unquote hot shots, who have got 5 flights. Like a lot of crews like recommended to you will just have like 2, maybe 3.
I think we would interview a couple of the hotshot crews. How do they differ? Because it sounds like these hotshot crews have a lot more experience, or at least they have a lot more successful flights. How is their demeanor differing? Does it show?
I mean, even when they like hotshot crews are like seem to be able to recover more mentally more quickly. But if you talk to an elder about like hotshot crews, that's interesting. He will say that hotshot crews often have major catastrophic breakdowns, like mid-flight.
Ooh, so they die on the job. So they're like the most likely to die on the job then.
Usually one of them will die on the job, and the other one will be in a really awkward situation where they're trying to fly with effectively one crew member down, which is really bad. They will immediately abort and try and get back up. They won't try and get out of Fragmented, they'll just try and get into high orbit, where a recovery crew can get to them.
Okay.
Because getting out of orbit is nasty as well.
Hey,
Like,
guys,
nothing about Fragmentum is fun.
hey guys, we figured out what crew we're not going with if we have to choose.
This is the thing, shot crews do end up with good records. And a
So-
lot of them...
They are basically either the best or dead.
Yes. They are amazing...
Time bombs.
Yeah,
They're
a lot,
amazing until they fail.
yeah, a lot of them are time bombs, but a lot of them... Like, a number of quote-unquote, or, like, elders are actually part of hotshot crews.
Oh, okay. That's actually good to know.
Yeah, so... While a quote-unquote hotshot crew is, like... They're more likely to die on the job, a crew that retires generally has, you know, mental issues afterwards. Like, a normal crew that retires, like, after 3 or 4 flights, like, yeah, they have mental issues afterwards.
Yeah.
So...
My vote is still...
You know, casually have mental issues. That's,
Oh, yeah,
that's
no,
good.
like...
I
if you
mean,
talk to people...
they are flying in literal hell.
Yes.
So, of course, they go crazy.
What you can gather, quite easily, is that flying on Fragmentum is the closest you're going to get to flying literally in the warp on a small shuttle.
Gotcha.
So,
Warp is not fun.
the warp is not fun for a
Maddening.
small shuttle, which is not, like, you know.
Yes.
Take it from someone from a Space Hulk. The warp is not fun.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So we've gone through how many crews would you say that we've interviewed at this point in time?
maybe, like, if you're going to spend a day on it, maybe a dozen, maybe a few more, like,
Okay. I would say
When-
like we'd probably spend the rest of the day doing it.
yeah, like, depends how many, like, how in-depth questioning you want to do.
I
Like,
think
if you're
after
actually-
like the first two, it would be we would have like a group of standardized questions, you know, because
Yeah.
in theory the best interviews are standardized interviews to get the best results.
Yeah.
Or comparable results, at least.
Yeah, so that's probably maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, if you, like, you don't have, like, long-winded questions and, like, lots of them.
You mean the thing that Ren is good at?
Yeah. So, if there was a flight coming down from orbit, and, like, an engine caster, like, went out, what would your immediate responses be? However, there's also a storm coming in, and you must get this mission. It's like, whatever. No, just... Sorry, but...
Like you suddenly see this alien appear in the back of your cockpit. What do you do?
Whoa, hey.
Shout at the Skitari.
That's the Skitari's job.
Yeah, it's...
That is literally the guitarist's job.
Whoa.
Yes!
I know my way around a cockpit. You don't just appear in them. You shanty in. Shanty in? Yes, you sing a song while you enter.
Oh, based on the sketchy way that you sneak up on people, you could effectively randomly appear to some of them.
I don't do it on
You
purpose, damn it.
sneaky lizard.
I can't help it. You humans are too dull to notice me. Yeah. Be more perceptive.
Wow, that took
I'm gonna say
far
probably
longer.
something like 20-ish interviews.
Yeah. 20-ish is reasonable, but yeah, you get the impression, like, a lot of them do, like, have the mentality of, like, they need to be calm and collect at all times, and that's death from Fragmentum is a high possibility. And even if they return from Fragmentum, death is still an option.
Okay, but effectively no legitimate clues in our investigation about who is
no.
corrupted.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Would bringing up those crashes and would that bring up any particular reaction from them? Like if they have any idea what could have happened there?
No.
Okay.
If you,
But
like,
what about
talking to them-
Zanbon? does he get the information back after doing the research for the day about
Yes, but like I actually need time to get that. Like, so no.
Yes,
like that.
not now.
Yeah, like effectively, what I'm trying to do is store that information so I can go away and think of it and give you something that's actually reasonable, as opposed to just giving you something that takes 30 seconds, like done in 30 seconds is actually actually cool.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, no worries then.
So, you want to do the Skitarii? No, not Skitarii stuff. The Servitors.
Servitors.
Yeah.
So it's been like most of the day. I would say we'd probably want to sleep first on it, and then probably go to the Servitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if this is a good place to end the session.
That's what I was thinking.
It could be.
Yeah.
Because if
So
we do
you-
manage to get anything from the servitors, then that might be something that you might just say, I need time to think about it anyway.
Yeah.
Because servitors tend to
I
have a
think-
good bank of info.
Yeah. I think that is a good point to end, so you can figure out what we can find out in the investigation.
Yeah. So you want to do the Servitors and you want to do Skitarii. Do you actually want to go down to Fragmentum? Is another big thing.
I do.
Well, in character, my character probably would not, but if it'd be a fun adventure, then I'm down to.
Because what I was
have a reason.
suggesting, potentially, is if people don't want to go down, or like, no, like, I want to go down to Fragmentum, but not with my character, I might do like a sort of one-shot where you are a Skitarii team.
Mm-hmm. That sounds also fun.
I'd rather go down, like, so I have absolutely no objections about my character dying, whatever, from going down to Fragmentum or whatever like that. I'm just saying my character, there is absolutely no way my character would want to do it. If there's like a, you have to do it, damn, I'd be perfectly happy to play him out on Fragmentum. And even if he dies, like, whatever.
The great
Do
thing
a
is
Skitarii one-shot.
Z-Tark would totally want to go down. The sad thing is he's kind of used to dealing with warpy shit from his past. Like, not like being elbow deep in warp shit. But
Elbow deep in the warp.
yeah, he's only been elbow deep in the warp twice, and both times he was on a ship that was protected enough to deal with it.
But yeah,
Neither of them were fun times.
You know, I think this is a good place to end. I will start working towards a Skitarii one-shot. Who actually goes down is up to you guys. I will give you the option of like playing Skitarii, and I don't mind if it's an all Skitarii party. Where you go down and like, ooh, that could be a quite fun thing. Where you go down to try and investigate one of the crashed shuttles.
Yeah.
But you do it in such a way that like it doesn't raise suspicion of it.
It's a sneaky exit. We don't have all the credentials and certifications.
No. It's like you don't go down there with the aim of like you're like no, we're not going down to investigate them, and then immediately go investigate them. If that makes sense. Not that's sort of sneaky. Going down to Fragmentum like sneaking is suicidal.
Yeah.
Because you would have to steal a ship from here. Like you'd have to steal one of their ships, which is like highly guarded at all times.
Yeah. And then you would need all the specialist training, which neither of us has or can acquire in a reasonable time.
Yeah, no, like the pilots are trained from a very young age. They are the pilot and navigator are in sync. They also have 3 specially modified servitors just for doing that. Like.
So easily see this as like, nope, our group is going. Damn it! Why are we the only ones that can investigate? And then it's like we're flying, and then pilot and co-pilot just suddenly get unconscious. Shit, we have to pilot the ship.
Look, there is always the moment in a pilot's life where he's like, well, I don't know what the fuck to do in this environment. I'm gonna do it anyway. And they just do it, and it either ends in one of 2 ways. They go out in the movie style of crashing and exploding magnificently, or they also go out in the movie style and just badass their way through it.
Exactly.
Either way, as a pilot, you're gonna end in some type of movie style.
Yes.
Also, here is a picture of the creator of the plastic lawn flamingos.
Yeah. and he looks exactly what you would expect.
In that freaking Hawaiian shit.
To be fair, I expected bigger glasses.
Yeah, those are pretty
I feel like
big.
his pants level is just about right on that.
Yeah. And that Hawaiian
Above his
shit as
belly
well.
button. It's probably just above his belly button.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, right. This is
Like-
how we're ending the session.
Oh yeah. Like on a scale of how much bigger I had expected those glasses, I expected them to be those really big, like circular ones that you see some people wearing, that are like freakishly huge.
I mean, they are. It's just they got thin frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are pretty big.
Mm. And it's also a weird angle, because he's leaning backwards for some reason.
Look at my amazing creation that will just be really rubbish.
Yeah.
To be fair, he probably made way too much money from that. Way.
Entirely possible.
Oh. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and I shall see you hopefully next week.
Yes.
Maybe.
Bye.